Hello, welcome to another episode of The Crux of the Matter with Stephanie. Our guest joining me today is currently a child protection specialist, the national focal point and output manager for birth registration in the UNICEF Child Protection Program in UNICEF Nigerian office. She facilitates several training organized by the UN for governments, civil society organizations, and other UNICEF staff and bilateral partners. Welcome, Sharon Oladije, to this show.
Good afternoon.
A national survey in violence against children was conducted in 2014. The survey measured the prevalence, nature, and consequence of physical, emotional, and sexual violence against children. The survey was conducted by the Nigerian government with the help of the UN. So the question now is, what are the long-term effects of violence against children, especially domestic violence, and what are the measures put in place to protect children against these forms of violence?
And like you read out, there are three different categories of violence against children. There's emotional violence, there's sexual violence, there's a physical violence, and they're different categories. All these series of violences, they have their own long-term effect on the child. For the emotional, a child that is emotionally violated, you see, long-term signs of, stress disorders, low self-esteem, trouble in forming relationships. The low self-esteem component is so damaging that you see that child not able to lift his or her head amongst our peers and kind of impact negatively on the potentials of that child. So even if that child has a brain to make A's in class, because of the stress of emotional challenge or emotional violence, the child tends to be withdrawn and unable to cope sometimes. The sexual violence is stronger and worse because it has to do with infections. You're looking at anxiety, you're looking at depression. Some have suicidal thoughts, and even in pregnancy, there's so many people who have been violated like this and they get pregnant. So what do you do? So these are all the damaging effect of sexual violence. For the physical violence, you see a lot of can affect the brain, can affect brain development, it can impair the psychology permanently. So all these are what we call, it can be psychological problems. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much for really touchlighting this very sensitive matter. And that brings me to my very second question, because, with all this, everyone will be asking, what can be done? How can this be arrested? How can this be managed? So, what are the signs to know what a child is being subjected to? Know that a child is being subjected to some form of violence, or how can a parent or school or professionals help protect the rights of these children?
Okay, let's put it this way. We see a lot of this in the school environment. So if there's this child that is so good before, and then suddenly starts being withdrawn, suddenly doesn't want to talk to anybody, suddenly doesn't want to get involved with anybody, that's a clear sign that there's something wrong with this child. So we expect the school environment or the teacher to be observant about their students. The first thing is to find out what happened. The next thing is if it's emotional violence, if it's emotional abuse. Now we have to get into the home, we have to get into the parents, we have to talk about responsible parenting. We have to work with the parents. If it's something else like a sexual violence, we need to track the perpetrator. We need to befriend the child to be able to find out exactly what happened. Because some when they are violated, would not be able to talk about it. So you have to deal with the trauma. You have to deal with, you have to counsel. You have to put them out of their vulnerability. Then you have to advise them.
Thank you so, so much for being on the show. Viewers, you've heard it, and it's left for us to join hands together and look after our children, discover the signs that have been mentioned, and try to help those who do not know understand that these things are happening and that we can do one thing or the other to help solve this problem in society. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next time.